Hi there. Welcome to Wealth Unplugged Live for another week. So I'm Barbara Turley, founder of Energize Wealth and creator of the Wealth Success Map. So you're very welcome to the live Q&A that we're having here this morning, or it's evening time if you're checking in from the US. So a little bit of housekeeping before we start the show today. Number one, when you want to ask questions, please do ask questions as I go along, because questions are going to pop into your head as I'm talking and you'll forget about them if you wait until the end. So all you need to do to ask a question is to pop your question in the chat roll below, and then what I'll do at the end is I'll come back and I'll look at all those questions and we'll address them at the end. But I urge you to put them in before the end because you'll forget the question that you want to ask. So also, I do these shows every Friday, so if you want to be on the mailing list to get reminded about the show, just go to energizewealth.com forward slash live, and then you can sign up there and I'll send reminders out with the link and everything that you need every Thursday so that you can be sure to jump on here with me. So, Wealth Unplugged Live. This show, basically, I decided to do this show because I know lots of you, when you watch my Feminine Wealth TV show, my Wealth Unplugged podcast, and you read my blog posts, you know, you've got lots of questions. You know, wealth is a huge space and it's a difficult one to get your head around when you're starting out. So I thought, why not do this live session with you where you can ask your questions completely live and unplugged with me, and we can have a chat about what's on your mind. So don't be shy. No question is too stupid. No question is dumb, and just shoot the questions in. Okay, so we're in the middle at the moment. If you're new on the show today, the last few weeks we've been doing the Wealth Blocks for Women series. And today we're going to talk about Wealth Block number 4, which is the catch cry of I'm no good with money. So a few months ago when I was thinking about, you know, what's blocking women with wealth, I mean, think about it. Only 1% of the world's wealth sits in the hands of women. And that's despite more than 50% of businesses today are started by women, and something like 60% of graduates coming out of university are women. But yet we're not making the money. And it's been like this for a couple of decades now, so it's not like it's a new thing. So I was really interested to find out, well, why is this? What's going on? So I ran around and did a survey of all you gorgeous women out there, and I asked you, what were your major problems or feelings when it comes to money, wealth, and investing? And I got great feedback from so many gorgeous women. And the answers were actually very similar across the board. So I created this, 10 wealth blocks from that information. And basically that's what I'm here talking about every week. So every week I'm delving into one particular block in more depth. So today we're talking about the I'm no good with money catch cry. Now, honestly, I hear this one all the time from women everywhere. And it is the classic catch cry of the woman who has the specific sort of money personality that I call the Little Miss Innocent personality. Now, the Little Miss Innocent, she is the type who likes to put her head in the sand. She's like an ostrich. She puts her head in the sand and she just doesn't want to know. She feels that it's all too hard and she doesn't want to know about money. Now, interestingly, this is like the next stage from when you have the wealth block that I talked about last week. In last week's show, we talked about wealth block number 3, which is overwhelm and confusion. Now, when you're going through overwhelm and confusion around money and wealth, you're usually in a situation where you're trying to figure it out, and you're thinking, I should talk to people, I should go to a seminar, I should read a book, and you start usually in the wrong place, and you get just too much information all at the one time. You go on the internet and it's all just completely overwhelming. And after a while, the overwhelm sets in, then the confusion sets in. And the next stage after that, when you're really jaded of all of that, is the I'm no good with money phase. And this is when you completely give up. And you just say to yourself, that's it, I'm obviously not in my DNA to be good with money. And you just absolve all responsibility for your financial life to someone else. And this is when we start to dream about marrying a rich man. And we start thinking, well, one day I'm going to be in a relationship or I'm going to be married and I won't need to worry about this anymore. And it's this feeling that either, the knight in shining armor is going to come along and sort everything out for you. And sadly, girls, I'm telling you that even if a knight in shining armor does come along for you, the divorce rates, unfortunately, terrible stat I know, but are very, very high in the world these days. And also, even if you live happily ever after with your knight in shining armor, women live much longer than men. So at some point in your life, you're going to be faced with making big financial decisions by yourself. So even if, Prince Charming comes along and sorts everything out for you, you still need to know what you're doing around money. Okay, so let's talk about for a second. Let's take a step right back to the beginning and let's get you clear on what is money. So let's just look at the most basic thing. What is money? So before you think about business, investing, wealth, or any of these things, let's get clear on what is money. Money is simply an idea. It's an idea to make the exchange of value simpler and more efficient. So think about way back in the ancient times, or back when we were all tribes, living in tribes. What were we doing all day? The men were out hunting and hunting for food and building shelter. And the women were at home, nurturing children and creating the community. Now, those hunting, food and shelter are two of the most basic survival skills, or basic human needs that we have. And to be able to get those things are basic survival skills. So once we moved off that level of hunting and gathering and started to realize that we could grow food and we could domesticate animals, and we started getting into farming, and then from that came more industrial practices and the evolution of the human being. And from that we realized that if I'm having cows on my farm and you have grain on your farm, then maybe we could trade. I have value and you have value. So I could give you some milk from my cow and you could give me some grain from your field, and then we're both happy. So that all works well for a while. But what happens if, I actually want some goat's meat, or I actually want some metal, and I have grain to sell and all you have is a cow and neither of us have any metal? Well, then we need to go and find somebody who has metal, and both of us might lose out. So in comes the idea of money. So what do? We create something that means that I can exchange my value for something that you have that maybe is not a valuable commodity that you hold, but it's a piece of paper that says this now represents value that you can trade somewhere else for the value that you require. So this whole money concept, it's purely an idea. It is a concept. And what we do is we focus so much on the money and we say, I'm no good with money. I'm no good with this idea. That really what happens there is we get stuck in the paradox of money and we get paralyzed by what I call the paradox of money. Now, the paradox of money is when you focus on just the money, you either end up spending your whole life chasing money and having none of it, or being useless with it. Or if you do make a lot of money, you kind of end up, you might make it, but you end up unfulfilled because you don't really know what you've been making that money for, because you're missing the value piece. If we focus more on the concept of value and not so much the concept of money, trust me, it makes this issue of I'm no good with money a lot easier. So let's talk about value for a second. So there's two components I want you to think about when it comes to value. There is giving and there is receiving. Now, when we give value, and how we make, we get money in return for value, but the first thing we have to do is we must create value. And that's either by producing a product, growing some grains, having some cows on your farm, whatever way that would be, or producing value inside of yourself, which is a service that you can give to society. Now, creating value by, giving something of yourself out to society, the best way to do that is to figure out, well, what is the need that I'm serving in society, or what is the problem that I'm solving? And what is the value that I'm bringing to the table in order to solve that problem or fill that need? So, and that's how you create value. But the problem with the value equation is that once you create value, you must go out and then sell that value. And the way we sell value is that there is a value exchange. Somebody has to give you value in return for the value that you're giving them. And that happens in the form of money. Now, so there's two parts to the I'm no good with money thing. The first part is the being a bad receiver of money, so not able to receive money. So let's talk about that for a second. In order to receive money for the value that you're giving, you must be a good receiver, and you must actually value what it is that you're giving. Because if you don't value what it is that you're giving, then you find it very difficult to receive money in return for it, because you don't value it. This happens to a lot of women, where we end up in business particularly, we end up discounting our services a lot. We apologize for our pricing. We feel guilty. We feel ashamed about what we're charging, and we don't feel that we deserve it. So, first of all, you need to become a good receiver of value in the form of money. So the other part of this I'm no good with money thing obviously comes when you're spending money. So, I think when we get rid of the responsibility around money and we start going along this I'm no good with money track, we've come through the overwhelm and confusion stage, and now we've just thrown our hands in the air and gone, I'm no good with money, I don't want to deal with it anymore. That is a great excuse then for having a total financial, to be in total financial chaos. So when our credit cards are completely out of control, we can't stop spending, we have a wardrobe that is bulging full of clothes that we don't even particularly like and we never wear, we still feel we've got nothing to wear. That comes from this whole just the excuse of, well, I'm no good with money, therefore of course my financial life is a mess. So it means that you have literally given up all responsibility for your own financial life to someone else or to whoever, and you're not really focusing on taking any responsibility for your own financial situation. So it is an excuse. I know you don't want to hear that, but I'm no good with money is absolutely the biggest excuse there is out there. So what are we going to do about this? So a bit like what I talked about last week, when we suffer this confusion and overwhelm and it leads to this kind of final stage, I'm no good with money, it's very difficult to kind of come back from there, because you literally have checked out emotionally and mentally from the financial world. You have just gone, I'm not interested, I'm not involved. But the reality is that money makes up a very, very, very important part of our lives. And I say that it is as important a survival skill to be good with money as it is to be able to provide for yourself. Food, shelter, like I talked about in the early days of the tribes. So money learning how to be good with money, or how to manage money properly, is a basic survival skill. And it's something that, don't beat yourself up, because we're not taught this stuff in school. We are not taught how to be good with money. We're not taught how to make money, learning about money, fun. We're taught that learning about money is very serious and it's very boring, and it's, the Financial Times and, CNBC on the news, and it's just not made to be fun at all. Now, I'm a firm believer that learning about money and making money and investing money, when you know how, it is a lot of fun. And trust me, girls, to get out there and actually embrace this and feel empowered around money is the most amazing feeling in the world. And it will stop you feeling disempowered and trapped. And it will stop you hunting for the perfect man. And instead you can hunt for the man that you truly want, and not the man that's going to make you feel secure because he's good with money. So the first thing I want you to do is I want you to accept that if this is a block for you, I want you to sit up and say to yourself, this is an excuse. I am telling myself this so that I don't have to take responsibility. And then the next step I want you to do, I want you to start taking responsibility, and I would like you to, first of all, sign up for my 7-step training program, which is 7 short, quick videos that teaches you the steps to get more savvy with money and the order that you need to take them in. Now, it's a very high-level training, so don't worry, you're not going to go in there and be bamboozled by all these terms and everything. It's more just giving you the map, the wealth success map, and the steps and the order that you need to take them in, so that it gives you the foundation of knowing what are the next steps that I need to take, what are the areas that I need to start learning more about. So as you go through the steps, each of you will resonate with a different step. Now, if step 1 is where you're confused, or where you feel, oh, that's the step where I need to start there. Start where you are at, and don't get too, don't let overwhelm and confusion come in. So I really feel that, the biggest step for you really is admitting it. And of course, staying in touch here and asking questions and, reading my blog and, really connecting with what's going on for you. And don't be afraid. If you are afraid and if fear is coming up for you now, I want you to go back and watch the replay of my first Wealth Unplugged live, which you can get on my website at energizewealth.com. And the replay is available there for you, where I talked about the wealth block of fear and why, as women in particular, we feel fearful around money. So go back and watch that, and it will give you some tips there on what to do when you're feeling fearful. Okay, so I'm going to look at some questions now. So if you have any questions, jump on and put them into the chat box. I think we have some questions coming up. So we have a question from Katie. If someone does feel that they're no good at all with money, what would you suggest is their first step to building that confidence? Well, like I said, Katie, the first step, I think I kind of answered this question already. The first step is really to, tell yourself that this is a wealth block. This is actually an excuse that you're making up by yourself, and it's not true. It's not true. The only reason you feel it's true is because that you haven't yet learned properly in the right order about money. Also, the confidence bit comes from, don't beat yourself up about this, because the I'm not good with money block, it's actually a way of beating ourselves up a little bit and being down on ourselves and saying that we're not good enough to know about money, that money is too complicated a subject for us because we're not, intellectual or any of these things, or good with numbers like I talked about last week. None of those things are true. You just need to have the confidence in yourself to say, I'm going to learn about this slowly and in a nice, calm manner. When I get overwhelmed, I'm going to come back on a Friday and I'm going to ask Barbara Turley a question about what I'm feeling overwhelmed about, or just send me an email and I'll do a video about it. So whatever's overwhelming you, just take your time, and you're in a community now where you can learn. So don't worry, you can learn this. So we have another question from Evie. Do you feel I'm no good with money? The block of I'm no good with money is a problem that starts early on, even before women enter the workplace. Absolutely, Evie, that's a great question and a great observation. Because what I'd like to talk about in relation to this is, think about it. In society, as women, there are what I call unconscious biases in society that exist around women and money. The whole, as I've talked about before, the whole financial world has been built up by men, really, and it's not their fault. It's just that the world of business and the world of wealth and money and all these things originated in the masculine realm, where men were the ones doing this sort of thing. So naturally, what has happened is the balance. I'm going to put my hands up so you can see me. But the balance in the business and financial world has gone like this, where the masculine energy is really, really prominent, and the feminine energies that women bring is really, really out of balance. And that's purely because no women have been engaged in this world for a long time. And women's natural place was in the home, in nurturing and creating community. And it's really only in the last 2 generations, really our generation to be honest, specifically, that women are really stepping up as leaders and saying, you know what, in order to change this, we need to take a seat at the table. Now, in order for us to take a bigger seat at the table in the wealth world, we need to learn. We need to teach ourselves. So I think what happens early in life, because we're brought up naturally that women are more in this nurturing role and men are the leaders. And this is happening with girls and boys. I know Sheryl Sandberg, who's the COO of Facebook, was recently talking about this phenomenon where if girls are stepping up in the playground and seen as leaders, they're called bossy. And they're not liked, actually, they're not liked. So why is this? Because in society we believe that girls should be quiet and they should speak when spoken to. And even though we might not consciously believe this, it's an unconscious bias that we have in society around girls and money. So yes, I do believe this starts really on in life. And again, it's about accepting that this is existing in our society. And as women, what are we going to do about it? So we need to step up and change it ourselves. Now, this is not a men versus women thing either, by the way. It's purely just, the balance has been tipped because, the worlds have been like that for so long. So it's up to women to step up to the plate and take a seat at the table to change the balance. So our next question comes from Katie. And Katie says, you mentioned about being a poor receiver of money, which can lead to undercharging for your services. How can I stand firm in my own value when I feel a little awkward with it? Yeah, I know. And look, honestly, I have this one as well. I feel very awkward asking people. I mean, the whole asking people for money. You know, when you're producing, selling something, or you have a service, it's very hard to sit in front of someone and say, these are my fees, because the negative self-talk goes on in your head going, she must think I'm too expensive. Oh my God, would anybody actually pay me that? Am I really worth that? So all this stuff starts going on for you. And I want to tell you, I suffer from this as well. I am not immune from this, and nobody is immune from this. But I did learn a little trick from a coach I had last year. And that coach said to me, when you say your price, so let's talk about service businesses for a second, where you're sitting in front of a client and you have that uncomfortable moment where it comes to telling them how much you charge. So first of all, your client will feel your energy from you. So you have to first say to yourself that you are worth the value that you're charging, and you have to really believe it. There has to be a knowing deep down. So you might have to do a little bit of what would I say, a bit of work on yourself before you go into that meeting, so that you are firm in your value. And then you say your price, and you say nothing. Remain silent. As women, what we try and do is we fill the silence. And I found myself doing this as well, so don't worry. You start to say, oh, I charge, okay, let's go for a big number. I charge $10,000 a month. And then you say, oh, but you know, for you, what I would do is, because I know you and because I know your situation, I'm happy to do a discount. So before the client has even had a chance to object, we go straight in with the apologizing. So the trick with this is get really solid in your belief in yourself before you go to the meeting. Work out what you're going to say and how you're going to position. Then say your price, and then say nothing. And do not fill the silence, because your client is mentally working through it in their head, and they're just trying to rationalize what's going on for them. So just leave it at that and allow their objections to come out. They probably will have objections, and the biggest one, of course, is I need to have a think about it. So, of course, this naturally, and this is this is the way people get out, the cop out again, because they have fear and they've all got all their own emotions coming up. And sometimes, you can address the objections, but sometimes it's actually better to stand firm and go, that's no problem. Have a couple of days and I'll give you a call and we can discuss it again on the phone. And then you must follow up with a phone call, and you can close the sale on the phone. Now, when it comes to pricing online, obviously this is a bit more difficult because the price is just up there. But again, you can test your pricing online. The amazing thing about the online pricing is you can test and you can see, change the price, see do more people buy, and find out what does the market view as valuable, because more people will buy when they see it's valuable. And that doesn't necessarily mean discounting. It might mean value stacking. So rather than discounting your price, put more stuff in and just test, see what's happening out there. So, yeah, Katie, the awkwardness, don't worry. I think that's just a part of life, and you have to know that you're going to feel awkward, and you've got to think about how you're going to deal with that before you go into the meeting. And I always say, you're going to feel the awkwardness. Do not fill the silence if it's a one-on-one conversation. Okay, so I think if anyone has any more questions, just pop them in there now. If you want to, like I said at the beginning of the show, we do these every Friday, so I want to get more and more women on this show, and we can really swap ideas and swap questions. So if you want to be reminded of the show, just sign up for the reminders, and you can sign up there at energizewealth.com/live, energizewealth.com/live, and I send out a reminder every Thursday. I also do a reminder on my Facebook page, which is Energize Wealth on Facebook, and I do that one about a couple of hours before and then about a half an hour before the show. And what I would love you to do, if you could, share that with your friends. Get a group of your girlfriends together and get on the show together, and let's all hang out and let's talk about this money thing. So also don't forget to download your 7-step wealth success map. Trust me, it is going to actually change your life, and you'll get it over the course of about 2 weeks. So you can take it really slowly, you can watch the videos again, and of course come back next week where I'm going to be talking about the next wealth block. So I look forward to seeing you then. I don't think we have any more questions, so I think we'll leave it there for today. So hope to catch you on Facebook. Of course you can ask me questions on Facebook as well. Okay, Have a great week, and I'll see you next week. Thanks.